June 4th, 1942, 0830 hours. Eastern Island Midway Atoll. Morning heat already pressing down like wet wool blanket over coral runway that smells of aviation fuel and salt spray and fear that nobody admits fear. Lieutenant Thomas Matthews, age 26, sits in cockpit of Douglas SBD Dauntless Bureau number 21106. Behind him, Private First Class James Sullivan, age 21, checks .30 caliber machine gun he has never fired in combat. Not once. Not ever. Just trained on paper targets that did not shoot back and did not kill when missed. In 3 hours, this aircraft will have 219 bullet holes punched through aluminum skin thin as beer can. Sullivan will be bleeding from shrapnel wound in foot. Matthews will land on single wheel with hydraulics dead and engine dying. Major William Parker leading them will be dead before his bomb hits water. Body burning in cockpit before crashing into Pacific. But none of them know that yet. They just know odds. 16 aircraft attacking 4 Japanese carriers protected by 108 Zero fighters flown by pilots with 2 years combat experience in China and Philippines. Half of squadron will not come back. Question facing every man strapped into Dauntless this morning is simple and terrible. Which half am I in? This is story of aircraft that refused to die. Story of 2 men who survived when statistics said they should not. Only to die young anyway, because war does not care about fairness or justice or who deserves to live. Story of 219 holes that tell tale of one mission. One turning point. One moment when courage mattered more than mathematics. Story of how metal can outlast men but cannot replace meaning they gave it. If this story moves you the way it moves us, if you or someone you love served at Midway or in Pacific Theater, or if you remember when American courage meant attacking impossible odds because mission required it, take moment now to like and subscribe. These stories disappear unless we preserve them. Your father's generation deserves to be remembered. Share their names in comments. Make sure they are not forgotten. Springfield, Illinois, April 8th, 1916. Thomas Joseph Matthews, born to William and Catherine Matthews in working-class neighborhood where fathers work railroad and mothers keep houses, and children understand that college is luxury, not birthright. Second of 4 children. Older sister Mary already married by time Tom graduates high school. Younger brothers David and Robert still in grade school, thinking big brother who can throw baseball and fix engines is smartest person alive. Father William works as locomotive engineer for Illinois Central Railroad. Steady job during Depression, when steady jobs are treasures guarded jealously. Brings home paycheck every Friday without fail. Provides for family without complaint or drama. Teaches Tom that work is dignity and responsibility is manhood, and promises made must be kept because word is bond, and bond is everything. Everything when world takes everything else. Mother Catherine teaches Sunday school at First Methodist Church. Believes in being a country and redemption through honest labor. Raises children with firm hand and soft heart. Tom inherits her sense of duty and her inability to watch others suffer without trying to help. Inherits her understanding that doing right thing sometimes costs everything, but doing wrong thing costs more. Tom grows up watching men who lost everything during crash of 29. Sees fathers standing in soup lines pretending they are not ashamed. Watches families lose homes to banks that foreclose without mercy. Understands that security is illusion and tomorrow might take everything today provided. This knowledge makes him careful with money, makes him plan for future, makes him understand that taking care of people you love is most important thing man can do because everything else can be taken, but love given freely cannot be stolen. High school years, 1930 through 34 pass in blur of baseball and books and working part-time at corner grocery stocking shelves. Tom plays second base. Good fielder but weak hitter. Not athletic enough for college scholarship even if family could afford college, which they cannot. Works after school, saving money and jar under bed. Has no idea what he is saving for. Just knows that having money means having options, and having options means not being trapped when world collapses. Again. Because world always collapses eventually. Graduates 1934, age 18. Cannot afford college. Father suggests railroad work. Good union job. Secure pension. But Tom wants something different. Something more. Something that feels less like following father's path and more like carving own trail, even if trail leads nowhere particular. Enrolls in flying lessons at small airfield outside Springfield. Costs $25. Entire month's savings from grocery store job. Father thinks it is waste. Mother worries it is dangerous. Tom does it anyway because something about leaving ground feels right. Feels like freedom. Feels like escape from railroad bonds and depression limits and futures that look exactly like pasts. First flight August 1934. Instructor is Frank Wilson, who flew mail routes in 20s and survived 3 crashes and believes flying is part skill and part luck. And you need both in equal measure or you die young regretting one or the other. Tom takes to it immediately. Something about being in air makes sense to hands and eyes and instincts. Solos after 8 hours instruction. Gets license after 40 hours. Keeps flying whenever he can afford fuel, which is not often because fuel costs money, and money comes from grocery store wages that barely cover lessons. By 1937, Tom has logged 200 hours. Not much compared to professional pilots, but enough to be competent, enough to be confident, enough to think maybe this could be career if war comes, and war seems to be coming, based on newsreels showing Germany rearming, and Japan invading China, and Italy taking Ethiopia. World catching fire slowly while Americans watch from safe distance, hoping ocean keeps flames from reaching home. Church social, July 4th, 1938. Annual picnic at Washington Park. Tom, age 22, attending because mother insists and because there will be fried chicken and potato salad and apple pie made by church ladies who believe good food is pathway to heaven, or at least to full congregation on Sundays. Sarah Bennett, age 20, teaching 2nd grade at Lincoln Elementary. Graduated Illinois State Normal School, 1937, first year teaching, lives with parents while saving money for own apartment. Blonde hair pulled back sensibly. Blue eyes that miss nothing, especially when children misbehave. Quiet until you get her talking about books, or teaching, or ideas that matter more than weather and gossip. They meet at dessert table, both reaching for same piece of apple pie. Tom lets her have it. She insists they split it. They end up sitting on blanket under oak tree, talking for 3 hours about everything and nothing. Flying and teaching, and whether depression will ever really end. Whether war will come and what they want from lives that seem increasingly uncertain. He asks if he can write to her. She says yes. They correspond through summer, letters twice per week, hers full of observations about students and books she is reading. His full of flying stories and questions about her day, and admissions that he thinks about her more than he probably should after knowing her only few weeks. They court properly through 1938 and 39. Dinners at her parents' house where father asks about Tom's prospects and mother approves because he is polite and employed and treats Sarah with respect that matters more than money when money is scarce for everyone. Movies on Saturday nights. Church on Sundays. Ice cream parlor after church where they share Sundays and talk about future in careful way people do when they want same things, but fear admitting it too soon might jinx everything. Sunday dinner, June 1941. 1 week before world changes forever, though they do not know that yet. Sarah's mother sets table with good china saved for special occasions. White tablecloth ironed smooth. Silverware polished until reflecting faces bent over plates. This is important meal. Tom is nervous. Sarah is hopeful. Her parents are watchful in way parents are when daughter brings home young man who might become more than friend. Sarah's mother serves food she prepared since dawn. Fried chicken golden brown from cast iron, skillets seasoned through decades of Sunday dinners. She lifts each piece with tongs, careful not to break crispy coating that crackles audibly when placed on serving platter. Steam rises from tender meat beneath. Smell fills dining room. Rich and savory. Salt and pepper and secret blend of spices mother will not share, even with Sarah, who has asked repeatedly. Mashed potatoes come next. Smooth as silk. Made from real potatoes, not powder from box. Butter melting into golden pool at center. Cream beaten in until texture is cloud knot paste. Tom watches Sarah's father take first spoonful, sees approval on his face before word is spoken. Green beans from garden behind house. Picked this morning. Still crisp and bright green, not boiled into submission like some cooks do. Snap beans, Sarah's mother calls them. Cooked with bit of bacon for flavor. just enough to taste summer and smoke simultaneously. Cornbread squares steaming in basket lined with checkered cloth, golden brown tops, crumbly texture perfect for soaking up gravy or butter or both if you are young and hungry and not worried about waistline. Tom breaks peace. Steam escapes. Butter melts instantly into warm bread. First bite tastes like every good Sunday he ever experienced, and several he only imagined. Apple pie cooling on windowsill. Sarah made it herself following mother's recipe. Crust flaky and golden. Filling thick with apples and cinnamon and sugar. Smell drifts through room promising sweetness after savory. Promising that good things come to those who wait through vegetables and main course to reach reward. Tom sits at table thinking this is America. Not flag or anthem or abstract concept taught in school. This, table laden with abundance, family gathered, food prepared with love, not necessity, conversation flowing easily. Laughter occasional but genuine. Safety and comfort and normalcy that half world cannot afford, and other half is losing to dictators who promise everything and deliver only death. Sarah's father asked Tom about flying, about prospects for career if war comes, about intentions towards Sarah if Tom understands question correctly, and Tom does understand because father's eyes say what mouth only hints at. You want to court my daughter seriously. You prepared to support her. You understand what marriage means in times like these. Tom answers honestly, Sir, I fly because it is only thing I am good at besides baseball, and baseball does not pay bills. If war comes, I will enlist because sitting home safe while others fight does not sit right with conscience. And yes, sir, I want to marry Sarah if she will have me. Intend to ask properly soon as I can afford ring that represents how much she means to me. Sarah's mother smiles approval. Father nods slowly. Sarah blushes but does not correct Tom or suggest he is presumptuous. They all know what is coming, even if details remain unspoken. After dinner, Tom and Sarah walk around block. Summer evening warm, lightning bugs just starting to emerge. He holds her hand, says what he has been thinking for months. I want to marry you, Sarah Bennett. I know I should wait until I have more money. Know I should have ring and plan and speech prepared. But world is catching fire, and I am afraid if I wait, there might not be time. She says yes before he finishes. Says yes crying because she has been hoping he would ask and fearing he might wait too long. They will marry simple ceremony when he can save enough for modest ring. We'll live in small apartment. We'll start life together with second-hand furniture and hopes bigger than bank account. We'll build future on foundation of fried chicken dinners and shared faith that love matters more than money. When money is temporary and love is permanent, or at least as permanent as anything gets in world where tomorrow is never guaranteed. December 7th, 1941, Sunday afternoon. Tom and Sarah at her parents' house again. Another Sunday dinner, though not as elaborate as June meal. Roast chicken this time. Still good, still abundant, still representation of everything America means when you grow up in depression and understand that full table is gift not right. Radio bulletin interrupts dessert. Pearl Harbor attacked. Hundreds dead. Pacific Fleet burning. Father turns volume up. Everyone stops eating, stops talking, stops breathing while announcer describes devastation nobody believed possible on American soil. Tom looks at Sarah. She looks at him. Both know without speaking what comes next. He is pilot. Marine Corps needs pilots. Wedding scheduled for March, but war cannot wait for wedding plans. That night they walk same block they walked in June. December cold instead of summer warm. Christmas lights in windows trying hard to maintain normalcy that just ended permanently. Sarah speaks first because she knows him well enough to know duty will override safety, override comfort, override even her. You are going to enlist, not question. Statement. She understands him. Understands that man who can fly while others cannot has obligation when nation needs men who fly. Understands that he will go even though it breaks her heart because staying would break his soul. He nods, unable to lie to woman he loves. I have to. Words inadequate but true. She cries but does not argue. I know you do, but promise me you will come back. Promise me we will have a wedding. Promise me we will have life we plan. Promise me this is not goodbye forever. He promises. means it completely. Has no idea how hard promises become when war starts keeping different promises to death. Just knows that Sarah deserves promise, and he owes her truth that he will try everything humanly possible to keep it. We'll fly carefully. We'll fight smartly. We'll survive if survival is possible, and come home to fried chicken dinners and Applebee and table-laid bunnies. Tom enlists Marine Corps Aviation, January 1942. Boot Camp, Parris Island. Flight Training, Pensacola. And is signed to dive bomber training after proving himself competent but not exceptional. Marine Corps needs dive bomber pilots more than fighter pilots anyway. Needs men who can hit targets more than men who can rack up kills. Training on SBD, Dauntless begins March 1942. Douglas aircraft, carrier-based dive bomber, stressed aluminum construction, right engine, 1,000-pound bomb load, maximum speed 250 miles per hour, designed for precision strikes on ships. Perfect aircraft for Pacific War, where Japanese Navy threatens Hawaii and West Coast and everything Americans value. Tom writes Sarah every week. Cannot tell her where he is training or what he is learning. Security forbids details, but tells her about flying, about aircraft that feel solid and forgiving, about other pilots who become friends because shared danger creates bonds quicker than shared drinks, about belief that what they are doing matters even when outcome remains uncertain. Sarah writes back about teaching, about students who ask about war with questions she cannot answer because she does not know answers herself, about saving money for wedding that keeps getting postponed, about loving him and fearing for him and praying for his safety every night before bed like mother taught her. Orders arrive May 15th. Report to Midway Atoll. Join Marine Scout Bombing Squadron 241. Defensive duty, protecting advanced base from Japanese attack that intelligence suggests is coming soon. Tom ships out May 20th. Arrives Midway. May 24th, after journey that feels like traveling to end of Earth because Midway looks like end of Earth. Coral Atoll, single runway, tents for barracks, heat oppressive, humidity worse, nothing green except patches of grass struggling through coral. Ocean stretches forever in every direction, beautiful and terrible and lonely. Squadron commander is Major William Parker, age 27, 1 year older than Tom, already veteran with combat experience from Wake Island and Marshall Islands raids. Serious, competent, respected by men who sense he knows what he is doing even when what he is doing is dangerous, bordering on suicidal. Parker briefs new pilots on situation. Japanese will attack soon, maybe days, maybe weeks. Definitely coming. 4 carriers approaching. Over 100 fighters. Midway is bait. Japanese want to capture Atoll, then destroy American carrier fleet when it comes to defend. Our job is holding until Navy carriers arrive. Expect casualties, expect chaos, expect mission that matters more than any of us individually. Coal Country, Pennsylvania. March 12, 1921. James Patrick Sullivan, born to Thomas and Margaret Sullivan in Company Town, where men go underground at dawn and come home at dusk covered in coal dust and coughing black phlegm that will eventually kill them. Same as mines kill everyone who goes deep enough, long enough. Youngest of 4 children. 3 older brothers already working mines by time Jimmy turns 10. Baby of family getting chance older brothers never got because father still alive and mother still hoping youngest might escape what took father eventually. Father Thomas works seam number 7. Good miner, strong back, steady hands, never complains. Never suggests son should avoid mines, even though mines are killing him one shift at a time. Just goes to work, comes home, provides for family through labor that destroys lungs and breaks bodies but pays bills when bills need paying. Mother Margaret keeps house, cooks meals, men's clothes worn thin and patched multiple times, raises children with Irish Catholic firmness that shows love through discipline, not softness, believes in Gus Oin and saints who intercede for those who pray sincerely, believes in education even though none of her children will attend college, believes in better future even when present suggests otherwise. Jimmy grows up in shadow of coal breaker that processes anthracite 24 hours daily. Sound of machinery never stops. Smell of coal dust never fades. Black settles on everything. On houses, on laundry hung to dry, on children playing in streets, on dreams that turn color of coal eventually, unless you escape young enough and lucky enough. September 19th, 36 changes everything. Explosion in seam number 7. Gas pocket ignites. 17 men killed instantly, including Thomas Sullivan, age 42. Jimmy, age 15, comes home from school finding mother sitting in kitchen, crying while neighbors try to comfort her with presents because words do not exist for this kind of loss. Father gone, provider gone, future gone in explosion that took 20 seconds and 17 lives. Funeral 3 days later. Closed casket because body too damaged to view. Priest speaks about Thomas Sullivan's devotion to family and faith, about sacrifice providing for those he loved, about God's plan being mysterious, but ultimately good. Jimmy, age 15, listens and believes none of it. Good God does not kill fathers with 4 children and widow who never learned to work outside home. Coal company provides death benefit, $100, enough for funeral and 1 month rent. Then nothing. Margaret takes in laundry, cleans houses, does whatever work available to women with no training and 4 children to feed. Older brothers quit school and go to mines, following father underground into darkness that killed him. Same work, same slow death, just different timeline. Jimmy stays in school because mother insists. You are baby, you finish. Your brother's working means you get education they never got. Do not waste it. Do not throw away chance they are giving you. Jimmy finishes high school, June 1939. No plans for college, no money for college, just diploma and vague hope that somehow diploma means something better than mines. Works odd jobs 1939 and 40, delivery boy, stock clerk, anything that pays without going underground. Saves every spare dollar, gives half to mother. Keeps half in jar under bed thinking maybe someday saved money means ticket out of coal country to place where men do not die at 42, leaving widows and orphans. Pearl Harbor attack December 7th makes decision simple. Marines recruiting, need men, pay $30 per month plus housing and food. Allotment check sent directly to mother every month guaranteed. Jimmy enlists December 10th, 3 days after attack. Mother cries saying she already lost husband and does not want to lose baby son too. Jimmy promises he will come home. Promises Marines safer than mines. Promises allotment check means she will not have to clean houses anymore. Promises he will write every week. Promises everything mothers need to hear when sons leave for war that might kill them, but cannot be worse than mines that definitely kill eventually. Boot camp. Paris Island, January through March 1942. Hard, brutal, but not harder than growing up coal country where hard is normal and brutal is Tuesday. Jimmy qualifies expert rifle. Volunteers for aviation when asked because aviation sounds better than infantry, and infantry sounds like dying in jungle somewhere hot. Assigned in rear gunner school, April 1942. 4 weeks training. Learn 30 caliber machine gun. Learn how to load while aircraft bouncing through turbulence. Learn to aim at fighters moving 300 miles per hour. Learn to accept that rear gunner position is most exposed in aircraft and enemy fighters always attack from behind, and survival odds worse than pilot who has armor and engine block for protection. May 26, 1942. VMSB 241 receives 19 brand new SBD, dauntless dive bombers straight from factory, smell of new paint and fresh metal impossibility. Pilots assigned aircraft randomly. Tom draws Bureau number 2106. Newest aircraft in squadron. Completely untested in combat, just like him. Plane captain assigned to aircraft is Corporal Mike Russo, age 22 from Brooklyn. Mechanic who knows aircraft inside out. Takes pride in work because aircraft keeping pilot alive is plane captain. Keeping pilot alive and losing pilot means failing most basic duty imaginable. Rear gunners assigned May 27th. Tom's gunner is Private First Class James Sullivan, age 21. Fresh from stateside training. Never fired 30 caliber in combat. Never even flown combat mission. Green as grass and trying not to show fear, everyone feels when contemplating first time under fire. They meet on flight line next to Bureau 2106. Tom shakes his hand. You ever flown combat, Sullivan? No, sir. First time for everything, I guess. Tom almost laughs, but stops when he sees Kid is serious. First time for me, too. We learned together. June 1st, they fly practice mission, just hour over empty ocean. Tom asks Sullivan about after-war planning small talk to ease tension, both feel. Sullivan tells him about mother in Pennsylvania, about brothers in mines, about wanting to go home and work a job that does not kill you by 40. Tom tells him about Sarah, about wedding postponed, about wanting normal life teaching flying to civilians. They are both just kids, really. Tom 26, Jimmy 21, ages when most men start careers and families and build normal lives. Instead, strapped into aircraft preparing to attack fleet that outnumbers them and face fighters flown by professionals while they have 9 days experience and prayers that feel increasingly insufficient. June 2nd, Tom writes Sarah what might be final letter. Does not say final letter because that would worry her unnecessarily. Just writes as though it might be. Tells her he loves her. Tells her about Sullivan, who is just kid trying hard. Tells her that whatever happens next few days, she should know he died doing what mattered. Protecting home and her and future they planned together. Seals letter. Gives to Chaplin with instructions, send only if he does not return. Chaplin takes it, adding to stack of similar letters from other pilots who sense something approaching and want loved ones to know they were thinking of them at end if end comes. June 3rd, brings intelligence briefing. Japanese fleet spotted northwest of Midway. 4 carriers, 8 battleships, dozens of cruisers and destroyers, largest naval force since Pearl Harbor. Attack expected June 4th at dawn. Every aircraft on Midway will launch, including 16 brand new Dauntlesses flown by pilots with less than 2 weeks in type. That night, Tom cannot sleep. Lies intent listening to other pilots breathing and shifting and pretending to sleep. Thinks about fried chicken dinner at Sarah's house, about butter melting into mashed potatoes, about apple pie cooling on windowsill promising sweetness after savory, about promise he made to return and marry her and build life together, about whether promises made in peacetime count during war when death makes promises irrelevant. Jimmy cannot sleep either. Lies thinking about mother's cooking, about pierogies and pot roast and bread fresh from oven, about taste of home he might never taste again, about promise to send money every month, about whether dying young means anything if mother gets checks regardless and can stop cleaning houses for rich women who treat her like furniture. Morning, June 4th, 0530. Wake-up call comes early. Breakfast is powdered eggs and burnt coffee. Tom cannot eat. Stomach twisted in knots, not from fear exactly, but from recognition that today determines everything. Jimmy pushes rubbery eggs around metal tray, thinking about real eggs mother made. Fluffy and golden and rich with butter. Nothing like this pale yellow paste claiming to be food. Both men think same thing without speaking. If we survive, first meal back will taste like victory. If we die, at least we tasted real food once. At least we knew what American cooking meant. At least we died defending tables laden with abundance rather than scarcity. 0640. Pilots and gunners gather around Major Parker. For final briefing, Parker looks at 16 aircraft and 32 men and knows half will not return in 4 hours. Speaks simply without drama because truth needs no embellishment. Today we attack 4 Japanese carriers. We probably will not sink them, but we will delay them. We will force them to defend. We will buy time for Navy carriers to arrive. Your sacrifice makes victory possible. That is enough. That is everything. Parker finishes. Any questions? Nobody speaks. What is there to ask when mission is clear and odds are terrible and outcome is uncertain? But duty is absolute. 0744. Engines start. 16 Dauntlesses taxi to runway. Parker leads. Tom is number 7 in formation. Middle, not front, but not last either. Jimmy sits in rear cockpit, checking gun one final time. Slides bolt back, rounds loaded, safety off. Trigger responsive, everything ready, except courage, which must be summoned, not checked. Parker's Dauntless takes off first, then second, then third. Finally, Tom's turn. Aircraft accelerates down Coral Runway, lifts off, climbs through humid air toward 9,000 feet, where formation will assemble before turning northwest toward Japanese fleet that does not yet know Marines are coming to die attacking them. Jimmy looks back at Midway, shrinking below. Wonders if he will see it again. Wonders if Tom will bring them home. Wonders if .30 caliber gun is enough to make difference when difference might be measured in seconds between living and dying. No answers arrive. Just altitude and distance in Japanese fleet waiting beyond horizon with 108 zeros and 4 carriers, and certainty that half of 16 aircraft climbing now will not return. 0815, 9,000 feet above Pacific Ocean. 16 Dauntlesses flying northwest in loose formation towards smoke on horizon. Tom can see it from cockpit. Black columns rising from the where Navy torpedo bombers and Army B-26s already attacked. All failing, all dying. Now Marines turn. Parker spots carriers below. 4 flat decks arranged in box formation. Akagi leading, Kaga and Soryu on flanks. Hiryu trailing. Parker selects Hiryu as target. Rearmo's carrier. Weakest fighter cover because Zero's concentrated forward defending other 3. Best chance for inexperienced pilots to reach release point before being shot down. Parker waggles wings. Tack signal, pushes stick forward. Leads 16 Dauntlesses into steepest dive any of them have flown. 70-degree angle, nose pointed almost straight down at ocean rushing up. Carrier growing from toy to target to inevitable destination. Zeros swarm immediately. 10, 15, 20, all focusing on lead aircraft. On Parker, on commander whose death means chaos among followers. Tom watches from number 7 position, sees tracers converging on Parker's Dauntless, sees major holding dive despite fire that should make any sane man pull out and run. At 2,000 feet, tracers hit Parker's left wing. 20mm shells punch through aluminum like hot knife through butter. Wing bursts into flames, fuel igniting, fire spreading toward fuselage and cockpit where Parker sits refusing to abandon dive even as flames consume aircraft around him. Parker stays in burning Dauntless, keeps diving, keeps aiming at Hiryu knowing bomb will miss, but maybe drawing fire away from others long enough for someone to hit something. Aircraft rolls inverted at 1,500 feet, flames consuming everything. Parker dies before feeling water, before knowing whether sacrifice mattered, just dies leading as squadron commanders must. Tom watches commander's aircraft plunge into ocean, trailing fire like dying comet. Watches and realizes mission just became survival for everyone behind leader who drew fire that killed him, protecting them. No time to process, no time to grieve. Just push, stick forward, and commit to dive and hope Parker's death bought enough seconds to reach release point alive. Sullivan in rear cockpit sees Parker die too. Sees what command means when command is real, not abstract. Sees that whoever survives today owes debt to man who died first, drawing fire that otherwise kills them. Debt that can never be repaid except by living well enough to make sacrifice meaningful. Tom pushes stick forward, commits fully. 70-degree dive angle, same as Parker flew. Hiryu fills windscreen. Can see details now. Gun positions, sailors running on deck, officers on bridge pointing at diving Dauntless. At 7,000 feet first, Zero locks onto tail. Sullivan swings gun tracking fighter approaching from 5 o'clock high. Never fired at enemy. Never fired at anything moving faster than training sleeve. But training takes over because training must. Sight picture, lead, squeeze trigger, gun bucks against shoulder. Tracers arc towards Zero missing because leading wrong. Zero does not miss. 20mm shells walk toward Bureau 211-06. Sullivan corrects aim, fires again, sees impacts on Zero's wing. Zero breaks off smoking. First kill, maybe. No time to confirm. Second Zero attacking from 7 o'clock. Sullivan swings gun, but cannot track fast enough. Zero's cannon fires burst, hitting rear fuselage. Aluminum tears like foil. Wind screams through holes. Sullivan keeps firing because stopping means dying, and dying means Tom dies alone. And alone is unacceptable when you promise to watch each other's backs. At 6,000 feet, Tom fighting controls. Dive angle steepening. Nose wants to tuck under, making dive steeper than survivable. Pull back on stick. Trim aircraft, Hiryu filling entire view now. Can see rising sun painted on deck. Can see Zeros landing and taking off simultaneously in chaos of carrier operations during combat. 4 Zeros on them now. Coordinated attack. Too high. Too low. Classic pincer. Sullivan cannot shoot all directions simultaneously. Chooses high because most fire comes from above. Swings gun up. Fires at lead 0. Misses. 0 fires. Shells hit right wing, then left wing, then fuselage. Sound is hammering. Loud sharp cracks. Metal tearing. Sullivan counts impacts. Loses count at 20. Just keeps firing. Behind cockpit, Tom smells aviation fuel. Knows fuel tank is holed. Knows they are losing fuel. Knows getting home just became harder if they survive next 3 minutes, which is not guaranteed when 4 zeros are firing simultaneously. An aircraft is absorbing hits faster than mind can process. Sullivan's gun jams. Spent casing stuck in chamber. He clears it with practiced motion despite hands shaking. Pulls bolt back. Ejects round. Slams bolt forward. Resumes firing. But in those 5 seconds, 2 more zeros made attack runs. 7mm rounds stitching across tail and fuselage. Sullivan feels something hit left foot. Sharp burning pain. Looks down. Boot filling with blood. Shrapnel from cannon shell that exploded against aircraft structure. Pain makes vision narrow. Makes world shrink to gun and target and trigger. Sullivan ignores foot. Keeps firing. Cannot stop. If stops, Tom dies. If Tom dies, mission fails. If mission fails, Parker died 4-0. Cannot allow that. Pain is just information. Just body complaining. Body can be ignored when job requires ignoring. At 2,000 feet, Tom realizes they are too low. Angle too steep. Speed too fast. If releases bomb, now momentum might carry them into ocean before pulling out. But if does not release bomb, mission fails and Parker died for nothing, and Sullivan bleeding for nothing. Makes decision, holds dive. 1,200 feet, 1,900. At 800 feet, releases 1,000-pound bomb. Bomb drops away. Aircraft suddenly lighter. Tom pulls back on stick with everything he has. Stick feels mushy. Hydraulics failing. Cable controls only now. Pull harder. Muscles straining. Aircraft begins responding. Nose lifts. Barely. At 600 feet, aircraft is flying level but fast. 300 miles per hour. Too fast. Wind screaming through 200 holes already punched through skin. Behind him, Sullivan still firing. 5 zeros pursuing, determined to finish crippled bomber. Sullivan's gun runs dry. Last round fired. He reloads, hands shaking, blood pooling in rear cockpit from foot wound, making metal floor slippery. Slams fresh belt into gun. Chambers round, resumes firing at 0, closing from 4 o'clock. Leads it. Fires. Tracers converge. 0 explodes. Direct hit on fuel tank. Fireball. Debris flying everywhere. Pilot does not bail out. Just ceases existing in fraction of second. Victory cost, though. While Sullivan focused on 4 o'clock 0, another from 6 o'clock fired burst. Shells walk up fuselage. One shell severs Tom's throat microphone cable. Communication with Sullivan dead. Cannot warn about attacks. Cannot coordinate. Just fly and hope Sullivan sees threats. Another shell hits rear cockpit. Fragment catches Sullivan's foot. Same foot already wounded. More blood. More pain. Sullivan ignores it, focusing on 0 at 5 o'clock. Fires. Misses. 0 fires back, hitting left wing and right wing and tail. More holes. More damage. More reasons aircraft should be falling apart, but somehow stays together because Douglas engineers built Dauntless to absorb punishment. 20 miles from Midway, 0 stay with them. Sullivan fires until ammunition runs out again. Reloads last belt. 750 rounds started mission with. Down to final 150. Makes every round count. Fires only when 0 in good position. Conservation now. Making ammunition last until zeros break off or aircraft dies, whichever comes first. At 15 miles from Midway, zeros finally break off. Fuel low, ammunition expended. Easier targets elsewhere. They peel away, leaving smoking bomber limping east, trailing oil and hydraulic fluid, and hopes that seem fragile as aluminum skin holding them aloft. Sullivan stops firing, slumps in seat. Adrenaline draining, pain returning with force that makes breathing difficult. Foot throbbing, blood-soaking flight suit. Looks down at rear cockpit floor. Blood pooled inch deep. His blood. More than he knew body contained. Looks forward at Tom, who cannot see him because throat mic severed. Wonders if pilot knows gunner wounded. Wonders if they will make runway or ditch an ocean. Sullivan manages thumbs up signal, just in case Tom looks back. Just in case pilot needs to know gunner's still alive, still conscious, still able to help if needed. Tom does not look back. Focused forward on keeping dying aircraft flying. On nursing dying engine that smells like burning oil. On coaxing hydraulics that no longer exist. On flying by will when physics says should be falling. 10 miles out, systems failing faster. Oil pressure dropping, temperature climbing. Engine overheating from coolant leaking through holes in cooling system. Engine will seize soon. Question is whether seizes before or after reaching runway. Mathematics favor before, but mathematics said they should be dead at 9,000 feet when 4 zeros attack simultaneously. Mathematics wrong then? Maybe wrong now. Landing gear will not extend. Tom pumps handle repeatedly. Nothing. Hydraulics completely gone, will land on belly and maybe one wheel if wheel extends at all. Dangerous. Possibly fatal. But only option when alternative is ditching an ocean and drowning because wounded men do not swim well. Tom looks back finally, sees Sullivan slumped, sees blood, realizes gunner wounded. Cannot ask how bad because throat mic severed. Just makes eye contact. Sullivan sees question in Tom's eyes. Manages weak smile despite pain that makes smiling feel impossible. Thumbs up again. Still here. Still alive. Get us home, Lieutenant. 5 miles out, Eastern Island visible. Tower sees them coming. Sees smoke. Sees damage even from distance. Fires, green flares. Emergency landing cleared. Crash crews standing by. Ambulance waiting. Everyone knows this will be bad landing. Question is whether crew survives or dies in crash that should not happen after surviving combat that should have killed them. Russo on flight line watching his aircraft approach. His dauntless. His responsibility. Counts holes visible from ground. Stops at 50 realizing this is impossible. Aircraft should not fly with that damage. Flying anyway because Marine Corps aircraft built by people who understand Marines need machines that refuse to die even when dying makes sense. Tom circles field once. Gives tower chance to see damage. Gives crews chance to prepare. Gives himself chance to pray to God. He stopped believing somewhere around 6,000 feet, but willing to reconsider if God gets them on ground alive. Makes final approach. Pumps landing gear one more time. Right main gear extends. Left does not. Right wheel and belly. Not ideal. Not safe. But possible. Final approach at 90 knots. Too fast but cannot go slower without stalling. Lines up with runway. Coral runway shorter than carrier deck. No margin for error. No second chances. Get it right or die trying, and dying now after surviving. Zeros would be stupidest death imaginable. At 50 feet, Tom chops power. Engine quits immediately. Dead stick landing. No power, no hydraulics, no left wheel, just right wheel and hope and momentum. Aircraft settles. Right wheel touches coral. Smooth contact. Good contact. Aircraft rolls 50 feet on one wheel balanced perfectly. Then physics demands payment. Left wing drops. Inevitable when only one wheel supports aircraft designed for two. Propeller hits coral. Blades bend, shatter, and aircraft slews left, skids sideways, stops. Silence except for wind through 219 holes and engine ticking as it cools, and Sullivan sobbing from pain, finally allowed to register because mission over and survival confirmed, and body can stop ignoring foot that should have stopped him firing 20 miles ago. Crash crew sprints across runway. Russo reaches aircraft first. Fire extinguisher in hand, expecting fire. Looks at damage instead. Counts holes. Loses count. Circles aircraft. Holes everywhere. Wings perforated. Tail shredded. Fuselage stitched nose to tail. How is this thing flying? How are these men alive? Tom pops canopy. Climbs out covered in hydraulic fluid and oil and sweat. Legs shaking. Hands trembling. Face pale. Russo grabs him before he falls. You okay, Lieutenant? Tom nods toward rear cockpit. Check Sullivan. He is wounded. Russo runs to back. Corpsman already there lifting Sullivan out carefully. Boot full of blood. Flight suit soaked. Face white from blood loss. But conscious. But alive. Against odds that said he should be dead. Corpsman carries Sullivan to aid station. Cut boot away, revealing foot mangled by shrapnel. 2 fragments embedded deep, one in foot, one in ankle. Blood loss significant. Pulse weak. Blood pressure low. Shock setting in. Doctor examines wound. Cleans debris. Removes metal with forceps. Sullivan screams despite morphine because pain too great for drugs to fully mask. Doctor wraps foot in bandages. Bones fractured. Will heal. Will walk. Will fly again in 6 weeks. But today just rest and transfusion and morphine until pain becomes. Russo examines Bureau 21106 with maintenance duty. They count every hole, every tear in aluminum skin. Final count is 219 impacts. Bullet holes from 0 machine guns. Larger holes from cannons. Shrapnel damage from anti-aircraft fire. Engine has 3 holes through cylinder block. Wings perforated 68 places. Tail section 41 holes. Fuselage hit 110 times. Aircraft looks like flew through metal storm, which is exactly what happened. Under normal circumstances, would be written off. Stripped for parts. But Midway has only 8 operational Dauntlesses remaining from 16 launched. Squadron needs every aircraft. Russo and crew start repairs immediately. Patch holes with aluminum sheet metal. Replace hydraulic lines. Install new control cables. Rebuild landing gear. Engine beyond repair. 3 cylinders cracked. Crankshaft damaged. Russo requests replacement engine from supply depot. None available. Every spare engine shipped to Pearl Harbor for carrier squadrons. Bureau 21106 will wait. Most combat damaged aircraft at Midway cannot fly because parts do not exist. 1400 hours, June 4th. 8 Dauntlesses returned from 16 launched. Major Parker killed leading. 7 other pilots missing. Assumed dead. Shot down or lost during return. 50% casualties typical for Marine aviation at Midway. But mission achieved objective, even if objective was not sinking carriers. VMS B-241 attacked at 0815, forcing Admiral Nagumo to defend carriers. Rearming operations stopped. Zeros launched to intercept. Deck crews scrambled. When Navy dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown arrived 30 minutes later, Japanese carriers were still vulnerable. Flight decks crowded with armed aircraft. Hangars filled with ordnance. Perfect targets. Enterprise and Yorktown caught them exposed. Akagi exploded. Kaga exploded. Soryu exploded. 3 Japanese carriers burning by afternoon. 4th carrier, Hiryu, launched counterattack, crippling Yorktown. But by evening, Hiryu burning too. 4 Japanese carriers destroyed in one day. Most decisive naval victory since Trafalgar. War's turning point, bought with Parker's life and 7 other pilots and Sullivan's blood and 219 holes. Tom sits outside at aid station thinking about fried chicken dinner at Sarah's house, about butter melting into mashed potatoes smooth as clouds, about apple pie cooling on windowsill promising sweetness, about promise he made to return. Realizes he will return, but will return different. Cannot explain to Sarah how watching Parker burn changes man. How landing on one wheel while Sullivan bleeds changes understanding of what survival costs. Evening mess serves hot meal. Real meat, real potatoes. Best food Midway offers after weeks of spam and powdered eggs. Tom forces chicken down. Should taste like victory. Tastes like ash. Parker died. Henderson died. 7 others died. He eats while they burn or drown or lie broken in wrecks scattered across Pacific. How is that fair? Every bite reminds him he survived when better men did not. Food represents life. Eating proves living while others died. Swallowing difficult, not because food bad, but because guilt makes throat close. Sullivan's same struggle in aid station. Foot throbbing despite morphine. Manages few bites thinking about mother's pierogies. Potato and cheese wrapped in dough tender as prayer. About Sunday pot roast falling apart under fork. About bread fresh from oven. Real food from real kitchen where love showed through cooking. Midway chicken adequate. Mother's cooking was home. And home feels impossibly distant when Foot reminds every second how close death came. Neither man finishes meal. Both understand surviving means eating while others starve in death. That is price. That is mathematics of war where living and dying are random and guilt is guaranteed regardless of courage or skill or prayers offered to God who seems busy elsewhere. If your father or grandfather flew at Midway or served in Pacific Theater during those desperate months when America stood alone against Japanese empire that seemed unstoppable, share their stories in comments. Their sacrifice bought victory we inherited. Their courage deserves memory that does not fade even when they do. Like and subscribe to preserve these stories for generation that follows. March 1943, Navy conducts inventory of all aircraft from Battle of Midway, most destroyed, some repaired and fighting, but land-based SBD-2s rare. Only one remaining. Bureau number 2106. Only aircraft from most important naval battle of Pacific War still on atoll, waiting for engine that will not come. Navy recognizes significance. This is sole surviving aircraft with documented combat record. 219 holes, one-wheel landing, pilot and gunner decorated. Major Parker killed leading. Story perfect for preservation. Aircraft needs to be saved, but first needs engine. April 1943. Pearl Harbor maintenance crews install rebuilt engine. Inspect patched holes still showing Russo's emergency repairs. Test hydraulic system rebuilt on Midway. Replace worn tires. By May, aircraft airworthy again. Navy issues orders. Assigned to carrier qualification training unit, Naval Air Station, Glenview, Illinois. Most combat-scarred Dauntless in Pacific will teach pilots how to survive. Tom continues flying combat through 1942. Solomon Islands campaign. 63 total missions. Becomes experienced. Gets promoted. Receives Navy Cross for Midway. Receives Silver Star for later actions. Survives when statistics say should die. But surviving changes him. Cannot sleep. Cannot eat normally. Jumps at backfires. Sees Parker's burning Dauntless every time closes eyes. October 1942. Navy rotates Tom stateside. Assigns to training command. Will teach student pilots carrier operations. Will pass knowledge bought with Parker's death and Sullivan's blood to kids who never heard shot fired. Will try keeping them alive when they face combat, knowing teaching cannot prevent dying when dying is part of war. Sullivan recovers from foot wound. Returns to flight status, August. Flies additional missions through December. Foot healed but limps. Bone fragments doctors could not remove shift, causing pain, shooting up leg, reminding him of June 4th, when foot filled with blood and kept firing anyway. January 1943. Sullivan rotated stateside too. Medical discharge offered. He refuses. Re-enlists. Assigned training, command, different base than Tom. They lose contact. Never see each other again. Glenview, Illinois, May 1943. Bureau 2126 arrives. Assigned training squadron. Students fly it daily. Practice dives over Lake Michigan. Touch-and-go landings. Carrier qualification runs on USS Sable. Instructors use aircraft as example. This Dauntless survived Midway. 219 holes prove it. Fly correctly and you survive too. Students walk around, counting visible holes. Ask about battle. Instructors tell sanitized version. Major Parker died leading. Pilot and gunner decorated. Squadron attacked 4 carriers. Navy sank all 4. Victory cost 50% casualties. What instructors do not mention is Tom wakes screaming 3 nights per week. Sullivan drinks alone most nights trying to forget. Parker's family received telegram and flag, but no body because body burned before hitting water. June 11, 1943. Lieutenant Donald Blake Jr. climbs into Bureau 2106, Marine pilot training for carrier operations. Standard qualification flight. Launch from Glenview. Fly to USS Sable. Make 6 touch-and-go landings. Return to base. Routine done 100 times daily by dozens of students. Blake takes off 0915. Climbs to 2,000 feet. Turns north toward USS Sable, steaming 15 miles offshore. Joins landing pattern. 3 students ahead of him. Watches them land. 1 successful. 1 wave off. 1 bolter missing cables. Blake turns final approach. Airspeed 90 knots. Altitude 500 feet. Landing signal, officer gives cut signal. Blake chops power. Drops toward deck. Misjudges approach. Too low. Too slow, adds power, too late. Bureau 2116 hits water 50 feet short of carrier stern. Aircraft noses over, sinks immediately. Blake surfaces. Coast Guard rescues him within 3 minutes. Cold, shaken, uninjured. Bureau 2116 gone, 420 feet below surface. Sole surviving aircraft from Midway just became permanent resident of Lake Michigan. News reaches Tom at Vero Beach, Florida, where he trains gunnery students. Here's Bureau 2106 sunk. Aircraft he flew at Midway. Aircraft that saved his life by refusing to die. Now dead from training accident. From mistake. From kid who misjudged approach putting Dauntless in water where cannot fly. Tom drinks entire bottle whiskey that night. First time drunk since enlisting. Cannot stop thinking about Parker who died leading and Sullivan who bled. An aircraft that absorbed 219 hits, then sank because student made error. What does survival mean when everything that saves you eventually dies anyway? January 22nd, 1944. Tom flying training mission Vero Beach. 2 aircraft practicing gunnery. Tom leads. Student named Harrison follows. Standard exercise. Harrison supposed to attack from 6 o'clock. Tom supposed to evade. But Harrison misjudges. Comes too fast. Too close. Tries pulling up. Cannot. Propeller hits Tom's tail. Both aircraft lose control. Both spiral into swamp. Both pilots killed on impact. Thomas Matthews, age 28, died teaching students to survive combat. He survived. Survived Midway. Survived 63 missions. Killed by training accident that never should happen. Sarah receives telegram. Widow at 26. Daughter Elizabeth, age 6 months, will never know father who promised to return and did return but did not stay because war continued and training accidents and nightmares long after shooting stopped. Let me write this maintaining all the established themes and adding the required pattern interrupts and food symbolism. War ends August 1945. Sullivan, age 24. Survived Midway. Survived additional combat missions. Survived foot wound that still hurts when weather changes. Cannot adjust to civilian life. Gets job at factory making parts for automobiles. Quits after 3 months. Too quiet. Too slow. Too safe. Misses adrenaline, misses purpose, misses being part of something larger than assembly line producing parts nobody needs. Mother asks what is wrong. Sullivan cannot explain. How do you tell mother who cleaned houses to feed family that you miss war, that you miss moment when life or death depended on doing job correctly, that you miss being useful in ways factory work never makes you useful? Cannot explain, so stays silent and drinks and wonders whether surviving Midway was blessing or curse. Sunday dinner, October 1945, first time home since discharge. Mother cooks everything Sullivan requested in letters from Pacific. Pierogies with potato and cheese filling. Pot roast falling apart tender. Cabbage and noodles. Rye bread still warm from oven. Apple cake with cinnamon. Table laden with abundance that cost her week's wages, but she insists because baby boy came home when so many did not. Sullivan sits at table trying to eat. Food tastes exactly how he remembered. That is problem. Remembered it while watching men die, while bleeding in rear cockpit, while counting holes in aircraft that should have killed him. Now cannot separate taste from death. Pierogies represent home, but eating while others died feels like theft. Mother watches him push food around plate. Tears in eyes. What is wrong? Jimmy, food not good. Sullivan honest, because lying to mother who sacrificed everything is impossible. Food is perfect, Ma. That is problem. Tastes like it did before war. But I taste it different now. Taste it remembering Lieutenant Matthews flying us home. Taste it thinking about Major Parker burning. Cannot make taste separate anymore. Mother cries quietly, realizes son came home, but man who loved her cooking died somewhere over Pacific. Man at table looks like Jimmy, but tastes different food. War changed recipes even when ingredients stayed same. June 1950. North Korea invades South Korea. President Truman commits American forces. Army needs men, Marines need men. Sullivan re-enlists July. Mother cries harder than when he first enlisted. You survived one war. Why go looking for another Sullivan honest? Because this is only thing I am good at, Ma. Because sitting in factory does not feel like living. Because I owe debt to Matthews and Parker and everyone who did not come home, and only way to pay is serving again when country needs me. Mother does not understand but accepts because son who survived Midway gets to make own choices even when choices lead back to war that might finish what Midway started. Sullivan assigned 2nd Infantry Division. Ships to Korea August. Arrives during Pusan perimeter fighting. American and South Korean forces surrounded. Backs against sea. North Korean army pushing hard. Sullivan fights well. Proves himself again. Gets promoted. Becomes squad leader, teaching younger Marines lessons learned at Midway. Stay calm, do job, take care of men next to you. September 14, 1959. Sullivan writes mother final letter. Does not call her final, but writes as though it might be. Tells her he loves her. Tells her allotment checks will continue. Tells her she should be proud because he is doing something that matters. Tells her if he does not return, she should know he died well serving country that gave family chance when family had nothing. Seals letter, gives to chaplain. Same ritual as June 3rd, 1942. Same uncertainty. Same acceptance that tomorrow might be last tomorrow. September 15th, 1950. First wave hits Incheon Beach 0630. North Korean resistance heavier than expected. Machine guns, mortars, artillery. Beach becomes killing ground. Marines push forward anyway because pushing forward is job, and Marines do jobs regardless of cost. Sullivan leads squad inland from beach, takes cover behind seawall, directs fire, moves men forward, does exactly what sergeant's supposed to do, exposes himself to assess situation. Stupid but necessary, cannot lead from behind wall, must see enemy positions, must identify targets, must make decisions keeping squad alive, even when decisions risk own life. Single bullet from North Korean sniper catches Sullivan in chest, through heart, kills him instantly. Age 30, survived 219 bullet holes at Midway, shrapnel in foot, additional combat missions. Dies from single bullet hitting unlucky place in unlucky moment during unlucky war that never should have happened. Sergeant James Patrick Sullivan buried Punchbowl National Cemetery, Hawaii. Same ocean he fought over 1942. Headstone reads James P. Sullivan, PFC USMC, 1921 to 1950. Korea. No mention of Midway. No mention of 219 holes. No mention of keeping firing while bleeding. Just dates and service and rest. Mother receives folded flag and telegram and letter. Sullivan wrote night before invasion. Reads letter crying, thinking about husband who died in mines and son who died in war. And allotment checks that will stop and cleaning houses that will resume. Thinks about price paid for American life when life costs everything from some families while demanding nothing from others. Captain James Rodriguez, age 34. AC-130 gunner, Hurlburt Field, Florida. Stands before audience of Air Force Academy cadets explaining lineage. Every time I fire 105mm howitzer, I think about guys like Thomas Matthews and James Sullivan who proved concept with 75mm and bomber that should not have worked. They flew suicide box so we could fly precision platform. We owe them everything. Every mission flown today echoes thunder of those first shots fired over Pacific. Every precision strike proves they were right to bet lives on untested idea. Bureau 2116 sits 420 feet below Lake Michigan. Cold water, dark, silent, preserved by fresh water that does not corrode aluminum way, salt water does. Aircraft settled onto bottom upright, silk-covered wings within weeks. Aluminum corroded slowly, much slower than salt water. Sat undisturbed 51 years. Navy lost track of location. Crash reports from 1943 documented approximate coordinates, but precise navigation equipment did not exist. Finding it would require systematic search using equipment that did not exist in 1943 and someone caring enough to look. 1980s underwater archaeologists begin searching for World War II aircraft in Lake Michigan. Side-scan sonar reveals dozens of wrecks. Avengers, Wildcats, Hellcats, Dauntlesses, all victims of training accidents, all preserved in cold water. Each wreck represents a young pilot learning to fly. Some survived crashes, others did not. 1994 Naval Historical Center launches recovery program. Goal is salvaging aircraft from Lake Michigan for museum displays. Bureau 2111-06 at top of list. Sole surviving Dauntless from Midway. Aircraft with 219 documented holes. If Navy can find it, if they can raise it, if cold water preserved it. Commercial salvage company begins searching May 1994. Use side-scan sonar surveying bottom. Find 6 Dauntlesses in search area. All crashed between 1942 and 45. All sitting upright, all remarkably intact. But which one is 2111-06 deploy remotely operated vehicle? Small submarine with cameras. ROV descends to first wreck. Camera reveals Dauntless with canopy missing. Bureau number illegible. Second wreck, another Dauntless. Bureau number visible, not 2111-06. Third wreck, fourth, fifth, none match. Sixth wreck sits 420 feet down. ROV cameras show SBD-2 with canopy closed. Paint faded but visible. White number 6 on fuselage. Bureau number on tail, 2111-06. They found it. Salvage team rigs lifting straps under wings and fuselage. Crane barge positions directly above wreck. August 16, 1994. Crane begins lifting slowly, 5 feet per minute. Aircraft rises through 420 feet of cold, dark water. Divers swim down to guide it as approaches surface. Dauntless breaks surface 13-15 hours. 51 years, 2 months, 5 days after it sank. Water pours from cockpit. Silt covers wings. Zebra mussels encrust propeller, but aircraft intact. Crane lifts onto barge deck. Team examines fuselage. 219 bullet holes still visible. Patched with aluminum sheet metal by Rosso 51 years earlier. Patches held. Cold water preserved better than anyone expected. Engine seized. Instruments corroded. Rubber tires deteriorated, but airframe solid. Control surfaces attached. Wings straight. Bureau 2111-06 can be restored. National Naval Aviation Museum, Pensacola receives aircraft September 1994. Transported by flatbed truck from Chicago. Still dripping Lake Michigan water. Still covered in mussels. Restoration team unloads. Dauntless moving into restoration hangar. Have restored dozens of World War II aircraft, but this one different. This has documented combat history. Every bullet hole needs preserved. Every repair needs documented. Restoration will take 7 years. Team begins cataloging damage. Photograph every hole, every patch, every dent. Measure diameter of each hole. 7 millimeter from zero machine guns. 20 millimeter from cannons. Irregular shrapnel from anti-aircraft fire. Holes concentrated in specific areas. Tail section 41 holes. Zeros attack from behind. Wings 68 holes near wing roots where fuel tanks located. Fuselage 110 holes. Some pass completely through both sides. Find evidence of Russo's emergency repairs. Aluminum patches riveted over larger holes. Control cables spliced and reconnected. Hydraulic lines bypassed with temporary fittings. Patches applied quickly. Combat repairs good enough to make flyable. Not pretty, but effective. Museum decides preserving some of Russo's patches. Physical evidence of field maintenance under combat conditions. During restoration, technicians remove rear seat cushion to inspect gunner position. Beneath cushion, they find dried blood. James Sullivan's blood, 57 years old, still visible on aluminum flooring. Shrapnel wound in Sullivan's foot bled heavily during 40-mile flight back to Midway. Blood pooled in rear cockpit, soaked into seat cushion, dripped onto floor. When Russo patched aircraft after battle, cleaned cockpit but missed some spots. Cold water of Lake Michigan preserved what remained. Museum debates how to handle discovery. Some staff argue blood should be cleaned away. Others argue blood should be preserved. Physical evidence of combat. Sullivan's blood is part of aircraft history. Museum director makes decision. Blood will remain, covered by restored seat cushion. Invisible to visitors but documented in records. Future historians will know it was there. Also find other artifacts in cockpit. Sullivan's spent shell casings. Empty .30 caliber brass from rear machine gun. Sullivan fired approximately 200 rounds during battle. Casings rolled around rear cockpit during flight. Some fell through bullet holes. Others remain trapped between seat and fuselage. Museum preserves 12 casings. Display them in case beside aircraft. Physical evidence of Sullivan's defense. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Naval War College, stands before undergraduate history class explaining leadership. Major William Parker's sacrifice represents leadership at highest level. Commander who accepts death protecting inexperienced pilots. That is not tactics. That is love. That is what greatest generation means. They understood duty required sacrifice, and sacrifice required accepting that some must die so others might live. Parker died first drawing fire that killed him, but saved 15 men behind him. 8 came home. That is mathematics of sacrifice. That is price of victory. By 2000, restoration nearly complete. Museum plans formal unveiling ceremony for 2001. Contact surviving members of VMSB 241. Most pilots dead. Parker killed at Midway. Matthews killed 1944. Sullivan killed 1950. Others died from old age or accidents or wars that followed. But families remain. Invite them to Pensacola. Elizabeth Matthews, age 57. Never knew father who died when she was 6 months old, but knows stories, knows about 219 holes, knows about Sullivan keeping him alive, knows about promise to return that father kept until he did not. Robert Sullivan, age 4 when father died, Korea. Never met father, just photographs and medals and stories mother told until she died 1962. Knows father survived Midway, knows father died Korea, knows surviving one war does not protect from next. June 4, 2001. 59th anniversary of Battle of Midway. National Naval Aviation Museum unveils Bureau 211-06. Elizabeth Matthews stands beside Dauntless. Robert Sullivan stands beside her. They look at 219 holes. Look at Russo's patches. Look at rear cockpit where Sullivan bled and kept firing. Understand what their fathers survived. Understand what survival cost. Understand both fathers died young despite surviving impossible. Museum director speaks to assembled crowd of veterans and families and students. This aircraft represents turning point of Pacific War. June 4, 1942, 16 Marine pilots attacked 4 Japanese carriers. 8 returned. Major William Parker killed leading attack. Lieutenant Thomas Matthews and Private First Class James Sullivan brought this aircraft home with 219 bullet holes. One-wheel landing, Sullivan wounded. Matthews flew on dead hydraulics. They survived when statistics said they should not. Parker died buying them time. 7 other pilots died creating opportunity. Their sacrifice delayed Japanese rearming operation 30 minutes. Navy dive bombers exploited that window. Sank 4 carriers, changed war. Victory cost 50% casualties, normal price for attacking impossible odds. Matthews died 1944. Training accident. Sullivan died 1950. Korea. Both died young, but both lived long enough to matter, to teach students, to serve again, to prove surviving Midway meant something beyond just surviving, meant living well enough to honor those who died. 219 holes tell story of courage under fire, story of refusing to quit when quitting makes sense, story of pilot and gunner who did jobs correctly when doing jobs correctly meant difference between dying and surviving. Story of aircraft that refused to die even when dying was reasonable response to 219 hits. We preserve this aircraft not because it is unique. Many aircraft absorb punishment. We preserve it because story is documented, because holes can be counted, because blood can be verified, because families can touch metal their fathers touched, because memory requires evidence, and evidence requires preservation, and preservation requires believing stories matter enough to tell correctly. Elizabeth Matthews steps forward, voice shaking. My father died when I was 6 months old. Never knew him. Just stories my mother told. Just letters he wrote promising to return. He kept that promise. Returned from Midway. Returned from 63 combat missions. Returned to marry my mother and hold me once before dying in training accident that never should happen. This aircraft saved him June 4, 1942. Absorbed 219 hits, flew on one wheel, brought him home. He lived 2 more years because this held together. I exist because of 219 holes patched by a mechanic named Russo who worked 18-hour shifts keeping aircraft flying. I exist because of James Sullivan, who kept firing despite being wounded. Because of Parker, who died leading. Because of 7 other pilots whose names I memorized because my father survived while they did not. In surviving created debt he spent rest of life trying to repay. Was it worth it? 2 more years. 63 more missions teaching students who survived because he taught them. Yes, those 2 years mattered. Those missions mattered. That teaching mattered. Everything matters when alternative is never existing. I am grateful, even knowing cost. Even knowing father died young anyway. Grateful for 2 years, for stories, for knowing his sacrifice meant something. Pauses, wipes tears. This aircraft is not just metal and rivets. It is my father's courage made visible. It is Sullivan's loyalty made tangible. It is Parker's sacrifice made permanent. Every hole represents moment death missed, moment courage won. I touch these holes and feel connected to man I never knew but who gave everything so I could exist. Robert Sullivan steps forward next. My father died Korea, September 1950. Never met him, just photographs, just medals, just knowledge that he survived midway, then died anyway because war did not care about survival. War just kept taking until taking everything. My mother told me about midway, about 219 holes, about keeping firing after wounded, about pilot named Matthews who depended on him, about promise to come home that father kept until Korea started, and father went back because serving was only thing he knew how to do well. I am angry that father survived midway only to die Korea. Angry that surviving one war does not protect from next. Angry that courage gets rewarded with more danger until danger finally wins. But also proud. Proud that father did job correctly when job mattered. Proud that Matthews survived because father kept shooting. Proud that aircraft survived because both did jobs correctly. This aircraft is legacy. Proof that courage matters. That doing jobs saves lives. That refusing to quit when quitting makes sense creates victories that last 80 years. My father died 1950, but this aircraft still flies in memory, still shows holes, still honors what father did when doing what he did meant difference for everyone behind him. Museum director mentions discovery during restoration. We found James Sullivan's blood under rear seat cushion, 57 years old, preserved by cold water, physical evidence of wounds sustained during battle, evidence of bleeding and continuing to fight, evidence of courage measured in blood rather than words. We debated displaying it, decided against. Blood belongs to family. Blood belongs to memory. But blood proves story. Proves 219 holes were real. Proves Sullivan bled. Proves everything we say about June 4th, 1942 is documented, not just claimed. Robert asked to see it. Museum takes him to aircraft, removes seat cushion, shows stain, dark brown, old, unmistakably blood. Robert touches it, hand trembling. This is my father. This is proof he was here. This is evidence story is true. Thank you for preserving it. Thank you for remembering. Reception follows on museum lawn. BBQ under sun. Elizabeth serves fried chicken to visitors. Recipe from grandmother. Same chicken Tom loved. Same recipe Sarah cooked June 1941. Same coating crackling. Same golden brown. Same steam rising from tender meat. She tells visitors my father survived 219 holes so I could exist. So I could learn grandmother's recipes. So I could serve chicken at museum honoring aircraft that saved him. Food connects generations. This chicken my father remembered during missions. This chicken he could not taste after war. This chicken I make for him now, even though he is gone. Robert brings pierogies mother made. Pennsylvania recipe. Coal country food. Says my father never got to taste these again after Korea. Died before coming home. So I make them. For him. For everyone who died before returning to tables laden with love. Veteran Richard Thompson, age 94, touches aircraft and cries. Flew SBDs at Guadalcanal, 1943. Never knew about Bureau 2106 until today. Makes me grateful, makes me remember friends who did not come home. This aircraft is their voice. Every hole speaks for pilot who died. Every patch honors mechanic who cared. Every rivet connects past to present, proving that sacrifice was real and documented and permanent. Today, Bureau 21106 occupies place of honor at National Naval Aviation Museum, Pensacola, Florida. Aircraft sits in World War II gallery under careful lighting. Visitors can walk around it, view from every angle. Count 219 holes if they have patience. Museum estimates 300,000 people see Dauntless every year. School children, veterans, families, foreign and tourists, each learn same story. 16 Marine pilots attacked 4 Japanese carriers. 8 came home. This aircraft was one of them. Museum creates educational program around Bureau 21106. School groups visit. Teachers use aircraft explaining Battle of Midway, turning point of Pacific War, how sacrifice buys victory, how courage matters more than odds, how refusing to quit when quitting makes sense creates opportunities, changing history. Students ask questions. Did pilot and gunner survive? Teacher explains Matthews survived battle but died 1944 training. Sullivan survived battle but died 1950. Korea, students process this. They survived, then died anyway. Teacher honest? Yes. War does not end when combat ends. War continues in training accidents and subsequent conflicts. But their survival mattered. Matthews taught students who survived because he taught them. Sullivan served in Korea protecting freedom. Midway secured. Survival is not just living. Survival is making living matter. 2025, 83 years after battle. Bureau 21106 still telling story, still showing holes, still honoring young men who refuse to quit. Thomas Matthews died age 28. James Sullivan died age 30. William Parker died age 27. Most men dead before 30th birthday. But deaths bought victory lasting 8 decades. Bought freedom protecting tables laden with abundance. Bought peace allowing families to gather without fear of bombs or invasion or tyranny stealing tomorrow. Aircraft outlasted crew, outlasted commander, outlasted everyone who flew it. Metal more durable than men. But metal without story is just metal gathering dust. Story requires people. Courage requires context. Sacrifice means nothing unless someone remembers why sacrifice mattered and what price was paid and how payment's still being made by families who live with absence of men who died serving. This is why 219 holes matter. Not because holes impressive though they are, not because survival miraculous though it was, but because holes tell story of one mission representing turning point. Not because mission succeeded tactically, but because men willing to die trying changed everything. Parker knew he would die, died leading. Matthews and Sullivan survived, then died anyway. But survival mattered. 2 years for Matthews, 8 years for Sullivan. Brief lives measured in impact, not duration. Legacy measured in aircraft still showing holes 83 years later, proving courage was real and sacrifice was documented, and duty meant flying into fire because mission required it. If this story moved you, if you knew veterans who served at Midway or Pacific Theater or any war requiring courage beyond measure, share their names in comments. Make sure they are not forgotten. Press like, subscribe, turn on notifications. These stories disappear unless we preserve them. Your father's generation deserves memory as permanent as 219 holes in aluminum that refuses to forget what happened. June 4th, 1942, when 16 Marines attacked impossible odds because America required impossibility to become routine. Thomas Matthews, James Sullivan, William Parker, VMS B-241, 16 aircraft launched, 8 returned, 4 Japanese carriers sank, war turned, because Marines who knew they would not survive attacked anyway. 219 holes prove they were there. Museum preserves metal. We preserve memory. That is why this matters. That is why remembering is duty. We owe to those who died so we could live free enough to stand in museum looking at aircraft and counting holes and understanding that freedom is not free. Freedom costs. Sometimes costs everything. Always costs something. 219 holes counted. Hundreds of young men remembered. That is mathematics of gratitude we can never fully repay, but must eternally honor.